Hey guys, welcome to this new episode of the Aranzamendi podcast. I have a great video for you. I just watched a video by Tyler Cohen on his podcast, his channel here on YouTube. It was a brutal, completely, devastating brutal takedown of the Trump administration, of Donald Trump, of Pam Bondi, and this whole ordeal, this disaster they have going on right now with the release of the Epstein files. As you may know, Congress passed a bipartisan, almost unanimous law, all but one, in both chambers, all but one person. Everyone voted in favor of making it criminal to not release the Epstein files in 30 days. And as we all know, Donald Trump and Pam Bondi were so eager to release the files that they waited until the last day of the term, of the 30-day term, and then around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they finally released roughly 50% of the Epstein files. The only problem was that, number one, they didn't comply because the law established it was all the files that were not either related to some ongoing investigation or classified. So they had to release pretty much everything else, and they released only like half of that. And then if they redacted some of those things, and they redacted a bunch of it, they had to provide explanations as to why they redacted these things. And then on top of that, they also had to release, certain documents from the original Epstein, accusation and the memo related to the accusation. There's a lot of stuff that is missing. There's no explanation why it's missing or why they redacted so heavily so many things to protect Donald Trump, obviously, and many powerful figures and political figures. So the thing is that Tyler Cohen made this great point. And I want you to listen, take a listen, because all the people that are trying to still, stand by Donald Trump at this time, they should really reconsider this position. Right now, this is not even about Republicans versus Democrats. This is not a blue versus red kind of problem. This is Epstein's victims, 1,200 victims of, sexual abuse and exploitation, minors that were abused, completely abused, and haven't received justice. Justice hasn't been served, and all these people are still, out there probably abusing other girls, minors too. Remember, that's one of the biggest problems with predators, and this is why we have databases registering sexual, offenders, because most of these people, unfortunately, they don't rehabilitate. Okay, they don't change. So once a sexual predator, there is a high chance that they may attack, in the future, some other person. So this is why these people have to be held accountable, regardless of who they are, regardless of, to what party they belong. If it's Clinton, if it's Trump, whoever it is. So anyway, let me play this clip for you. Let me bring the Tyler Cohen video here on screen so that you can take a listen, because there's a great point that he makes here, that this goes just beyond just regular politics or bureaucracy. This is more about the fact that Donald Trump and Pam Bondi are trying to hide something. They know the price that they're paying. Right now, Pam Bondi is facing already. She's facing, impeachment. Articles of impeachment have been drafted already. They started drafting them to, a Republican and a Democrat, Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie. So in a bipartisan way, they are drafting articles of impeachment. So Pam Bondi is facing consequences right away. And already Thomas Massie also tweeted that once this administration changes, because obviously it's not going to happen under Trump, Pam Bondi may even be prosecuted for violating this law. This is what a Republican just said. And right now we have Republicans also supporting the idea. So all I'm saying is they know the price they are paying. Then whatever is in these files that they're trying to hide has to be way worse than the fallout of not complying with the law, of not releasing the files. So take a listen to what Brian is saying, and obviously we'll make some comments after it.
In yet another instance of violating the law as it relates to the Epstein Transparency Act, new reporting just released shows that far from the DOJ releasing all of the files as was required by law, the DOJ is actually rescinding files that reflect poorly or embarrass Donald Trump. According to the Associated Press, at least 16 files disappeared from the Justice Department's public webpage for documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, including a photograph showing President Donald Trump less than a day after they were posted, with no explanation from the government and no notice to the public. public. The missing files, which were available Friday and no longer accessible by Saturday, included images of paintings depicting nude women and one showing a series of photographs along a credenza and in drawers. In that image, inside a drawer, among other photos, was a photograph of Trump alongside Epstein, Melania Trump, and Epstein's longtime associate Ghislaine Maxwell. The Justice Department did not say why the files were removed or whether their disappearance was intentional. A spokesperson for the department did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The move was also highlighted by the House Oversight Democrats, who tweeted, "This photo, file 468, from the Epstein files that includes Donald Trump, has apparently now been removed from the DOJ release. AG Pam Bondi, is this true? What else is being covered up? We need transparency for the American public." The move is evidence that the DOJ's actions as it relates to the release of these files has focused squarely on protecting Donald Trump, not seeking accountability for Epstein's accomplices, not seeking transparency on behalf of the victims, but making sure that Donald J. Trump is taken care of first and foremost. And bizarrely, the byproduct of all of this is that it only intensifies the narrative that Donald Trump is indeed implicated and has something to hide. Even Piers Morgan, who is pretty vocal in terms of his support for Donald Trump, tweeted, quote, "Memo to the Trump administration, the longer you drag out the Epstein files and the more of it you heavily redact, the worse the scandal will get. What we're seeing now, as many of your own supporters are saying, is the opposite of full transparency that you promised." And again, there will be no full transparency because full transparency would mean that Donald Trump himself gets exposed. And clearly that's not going to happen, especially at the hands of Pam Bondi's DOJ, because he has something to hide. Think about it. Why would Trump subject himself to all of this if he wasn't hiding something worse in the files? You think that Trump doesn't understand the damage that he's doing to himself by suppressing these files every day for 11 months? You think he doesn't see the damage that he's doing with his base? You think he doesn't see the damage he's doing to his reputation? You think he doesn't understand what it means to lose the news cycle day in and day out, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for months on end? The only logical explanation is that the only thing worse than all of that is actually allowing us to see what's in those files, to see the truth. And that—
Wow, that's a really, 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 I don't know. I just can't find a way to argue with that. It's really logical. It's very reasonable. There has to be something very, very bad in these files for Donald Trump to be willing to pay the price. He's like, I don't care. I'd rather take the hit for not complying with the law, with the bipartisan law. Remember, it was absolutely unanimous in the Senate, 100 votes in favor. And then in the House, it was 427 and only one vote was against it. One Republican person who I guess I take it, that person is not running for re-election because now he's going to run on protecting pedophiles, right? So what he's saying is real. Look at the polls. Look at the polls right now. Unless it's a poll made by the White House, every single poll on earth right now is telling you that Donald Trump is underwater across the board, every single freaking category. He's underwater, on the economy, which used to be one of his strengths. Right now, he's underwater. He's underwater on immigration, one of the worst ones because of all the abuse of ICE, how they're violating the Constitution, denying due process, kidnapping people, all these sorts of violations. The way they're jerking around, the courts and lying to judges and challenging court orders and all these things. Then the pardon, the abuse of the pardon. Joe Biden pardoned like 80 people in 4 years. Donald Trump already has like 1,700 pardons, if not more. The vast majority of them, pardoning criminal people. Now they're killing people in the Caribbean, with no due process, claiming, oh, these are terrorists, these are drug dealers. And then he pardons 3 people in a row, related to drug trafficking. Juan Orlando Hernandez, Honduras, ex-president. And this guy trafficked 500 tons. This guy was prosecuted over, first of all, investigated. He was prosecuted then by the U.S. And the investigation, spanned across 10 years. So it was 3 administrations. It started under Obama. It continued under Donald Trump and then under Biden. And finally, in 2024, they convicted this ex-president, from Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez. The guy trafficked 500 tons of cocaine into the USA. That's the equivalent, so you can visualize it. It's the equivalent of around 80 freaking adult-sized, full-grown elephants. So picture in a row, I don't know, whatever, in an avenue, picture like 80 elephants. That's the amount of cocaine Juan Orlando Hernandez trafficked into the U.S. And you know what they're saying? Now Republicans are going on a media tour, and you know what's the stupid excuse? Well, we're trying to fix our relationships with Center and, South America. So, we believe that Donald Trump, by releasing this guy, by pardoning him and allowing him to go back to his country, I think that's going to strengthen our relationships with Central America. Really? Do you remember when they brought Bukele, El Salvador's president? You remember when they brought Bukele to the Oval Office and they were mocking, reporters for asking about releasing Abrego Garcia or bringing him back as the judge had ordered? What did Bukele say? Oh, are you asking me to release a terrorist? Are you asking me to release a criminal back into the USA, to smuggle a terrorist back into the USA? I can't do that. You're asking me something that I can't do. And then Donald Trump was saying, no, we're not going to release a terrorist. We shouldn't release a terrorist. This guy is a criminal. So all of a sudden, releasing Abrego Garcia, was bad because you never want to release a terrorist who could make it back into the U.S. or maybe even go and, break the law or whatever, right? But then releasing Juan Orlando Hernandez, all of a sudden, it's a great idea. Why would that be? Coincidentally, there's, elections in Honduras, and releasing this guy could have completely, destabilized change, influence, impact the elections there. And who knows, maybe they're going to build a couple of golf courses. Maybe they're going to give Donald Trump some planes. Who knows, maybe they're going to donate some crypto into Donald Trump's, family business. But then not only he pardons Juan Orlando Hernandez, a completely, link to cartels, a drug trafficker convicted in the USA. As I said, this was by 3 different administrations, the work of 3 administrations: Obama's administration, Trump's administration, and then Biden's administration. And then he pardons CC, Changpeng Zhao, the founder of Binance. The founder of Binance, on his platform, knowingly allowed financing of terrorism, of child sexual exploitation, of drug trafficking, and terrorism. Like all these, it's like 4 things: terrorism, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and then a child sexual exploitation. They were laundering money for all these crimes, and the guy knew it, but he was making billions of dollars, so he didn't care. He just, turned a blind eye and pretended nothing was going on. Plus, he violated a bunch of other laws because he was, getting rich. So this guy literally not only helped terrorists and helped to traffic, drugs by allowing all this money to flow on his platform to be laundered, he also helped for human trafficking to happen, and also child, to be exploited, children to be exploited sexually. And Donald Trump said, you know what he said in a 60-minute interview when he was confronted about that? He said, well, a lot of people told me, this guy was a great guy. I don't know him, but many people told me he was a great guy, and the Biden administration, just persecuted him. They were just unfair. And, I made a lot of people happy by releasing this guy, by pardoning him. It had nothing to do. Of course, it had nothing to do with the fact that the Binance founder, Changpeng Zhao, CC, they call him, CC, donated or invested $2 billion into the Trump family crypto business. I'm 100% sure it had nothing to do with that money, of course, right? Just like, this lady who happened to be a big Republican donor who went to Mar-a-Lago and donated at least, I think it was $1 million. And, magically, coincidentally, man, what life is strange, right? Because I'm pretty sure it had nothing to do with the fact that 2 to 3 weeks later, her son received a pardon too. No, not at all, right? But anyway, so now you have 2 people financing and linked to the, drug trafficking world, the Binance founder, Juan Orlando Hernandez, the Honduras ex-president. And then on top of that, before pardoning these 2, he pardoned the Silk Road founder, a dark web place where they were financing also and moving, trafficking all sorts of drugs and financing them through the platform. His name is Ross Ulbricht. Go and search about, Ross Ulbricht and read the case. It's still even on. You should go to the FBI page right now. It's on the FBI page. Ross Ulbricht is there. Binance CC, Changpeng Zhao, is still there. And Juan Orlando Hernandez information, I believe, is still up. Go and read it, because very likely they may take this information down very soon. The same way they did removing the white supremacist, tendency of 75% when it comes to local terrorism. Terrorism, it's normally 75% domestic terrorism is 75% based on, white supremacy violence. And they removed that recently from the website. But, of course, that information is everywhere. It's not like they can't erase people's memories or companies' databases or media's, databases. That's a fact that's established as much as they want to hide it right now. Just the same thing they did with the Epstein files. They just released the Epstein files on Friday just to do what? In a couple of hours, they started scrambling to try to take some of the files back. They removed 15 or 16 files as reported by Associated Press because they forgot to redact Donald Trump's name. Oh, Lord, what a massive blunder. They forgot to redact Donald Trump's name. And oh, boy, are these damning files. Not only photos, the files, guys. There is a file of this whole description where Donald Trump supposedly is having sex with some lady, some girl. We don't know because they don't say the name, so we don't know exactly who they are referring to. But at Epstein's mansion, supposedly Donald Trump was having sex with one of these girls or, women. And they're saying that Donald Trump was sucking, her let me call them nipples, so that the video is not banned or whatever. That Donald Trump was sucking her, nipplecitos, nippletingis, so bad that they were burning and red and all these things, and that supposedly he had many different sexual encounters. There's information like that was released by the Trump administration, by the Pam Bundy's DOJ, and they're like pretty sure Pam Bundy was like, oh shit, holy shit, how the fuck didn't redact that? Somebody must have been fired yesterday, right away, as soon as Donald Trump heard that there were, files that were claiming that he had sex at the Jeffrey Epstein mansion and that he had something for, apparently one of the girls or, somebody, a female, and that he was supposedly sucking, her titties so badly that, oh my God. Ay, señor. Man, this is incredible, man. I can't believe this. But anyway, it's that bad, guys. Like, these people are, just dealing with this massive cover-up right now. The thing is that they don't learn. So Brian has a real point here. Now they're claiming that they decided to keep like half of the files. Todd Blanche, which is, the second person at the DOJ, Todd Blanche, which happened to be Trump's own personal lawyer, he told Fox News, he told them, well, we decided to keep around, we published like around 100,000 files, but we decided to keep, to hold around 100,000 too. So they literally published roughly 50%. That's not complying with the law at all. And they said, oh, we're doing it because of, we want to be careful so that we protect the victims, right? And then one of the victims sent them a letter like right yesterday or even on probably it was the same day when it was due. Why? Because they didn't redact, at least as far as we know, they released one of the victims' names that was not redacted. And this victim sent them a letter, this woman, saying, what the hell did you do? Like, you published my name. So I'm telling you, that made me actually, that particular thing that they published one of the victims' names, they didn't redact it, made me really mad. Why? Because these people had 1,000 FBI agents, according to reports, which actually Pam Bundy didn't want to answer under oath who gave the order to put 1,000 agents to try to go and find Donald Trump's name and redact, completely erase or, not erase it, but at least cover up Donald Trump's participation in all these files. And Pam Bundy told the congressperson, the senator who was questioning her, she said, I'm not sharing any of that with you. And he said, well, you may not, and I think it was Senator Durbin. Durbin told her, you may not do so now, but eventually you will have to answer. And I was at that line, I love that line. Why? Because they think there will be no accountability. But Thomas Massie tweeted yesterday, because they violated this law, because they didn't comply with the law, this law doesn't expire with Congress, Congress change in 2026 or, with the administration change in 2028. So a new administration, a new attorney general could indict Pam Bundy. This is what Thomas Massie said. Actually, I may have the tweet here. Look at this. Look at this. This is Thomas Massie. Look at what he said here. Consider these three attachments. The attachments, number one, Epstein Files Transparency Act. Number two, statement from Fox Digital. Number three, existing criminal statute. And then look at the bottom what he says. A future DOJ could convict the current AG. An Epstein Files Transparency Act is not like a Congress subpoena and others, the current AG and others, because the Epstein Files Transparency Act is not like a congressional subpoena, which expires at the end of each Congress. So holy shit, Pam Bondi, ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you that Pam Bondi must be shitting in her pants today, because this is the fun fact. Let me share this fun fact with you right now. Not only this is not a congressional subpoena that would expire at the end of the Congress term. This is a law with criminal consequences, right? There's criminal penalties, and that means that she would face accountability. But moreover, if they decide to go ahead with the impeachment, and already Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie already confirmed that they started drafting articles of impeachment. And remember, this is still the Epstein Files issue for which the whole Congress, but one person, the whole Congress, voted in favor of. So these people are completely aware of the fact that the 2026 midterms are around the corner. So if they don't hold Pam Bondi accountable, it was like if they hadn't supported the law to release the files in the first place, because they're not releasing the files. So there has to be accountability. So there's a high chance that may happen. But look at this. This is the most interesting fun fact. Donald Trump can't save Pam Bondi. Sorry, my dog is also in support of the Epstein victims, saying that Donald Trump is corrupt. So anyway, the thing is that Donald Trump cannot save Pam Bondi. For those of you who don't know it, who believe that Donald Trump is all-knowing, all-powerful, he cannot pardon anyone who is processed through an impeachment. That's the law. Constitution establishes impeachment is a power that Congress has to remove corrupt people from the executive, and a pardon does not apply to the impeachment process. So, let's give a round of applause to our founding fathers and the Constitution that is opening the door. And I'm going to tell you this, Pam Bondi, she doesn't have a lot of fans right now in the Republican Party. Remember that a lot of people, they voted for Trump, believing that Trump was going to come in and combat the deep state, and he was going to combat all this, these pedophiles and the network and, Democrats that were trying supposedly to protect pedophiles. Remember, Joe Biden was supposed to be a pedophile, and they were always sharing all these videos of Biden supposedly touching girls and all of that. Fun fact, are funny. It's funny that they don't share the same type of photos of Donald Trump with all these girls and all these messages saying that Donald Trump was, having sex with all these girls and supposedly, sucking titties and a bunch of other stuff. But anyway, that's always the double standard. So Pam Bondi is in deep shit, guys. She's in deep shit. And then this is the thing. They don't learn. They don't learn because they always believe they're going to somehow be saved by Donald Trump, or, well, it's not going to happen to me. But this is literally the story of Donald Trump's, circle, and all the lawyers and people that work with Donald Trump. They end up what? They always end up losing their licenses. They end up being, sanctioned, fined, or even in jail. In jail. Do you guys remember during the big lie when they started filing all these court cases, 62 court cases? Not a single court case made it to trial because they didn't have the proof. They didn't have the proof. Even judges that Donald Trump appointed, it was like 7 or 8 of those 62 cases were presented before Republican or Trump appointed judges, and the cases still were dismissed. Or even the Trump own lawyers just canceled the cases. They took them back. They didn't want to pursue, and after they filed them. Why? Because it was all about winning in the court of public opinion. They knew they didn't have the proof. Look at Rudy Giuliani's case in Georgia. He defamed 2 election workers, Ruby Freeman and what's the name of the other one? Ruby Freeman and, anyway, 2 election workers. And these ladies finally had to sue Rudy Giuliani based on defamation. They won that lawsuit. A jury awarded them $150 million. That's a hefty amount, a heavy price for Rudy Giuliani to pay. And he had to settle eventually because, there was a lot of delays. So they reached an agreement outside of court. So probably he paid less than that, but maybe he paid half. Even if he paid 25% of that, imagine that. It would still be around $35 million that he had to pay. Why? Because he told the judge, Rudy Giuliani told the judge in Georgia in a defamation case where he claimed that these two election workers had supposedly manipulated or stolen or they did something supposedly. He told the judge, yeah, I don't have proof. I cannot produce the video. I cannot produce any proof to back my claims. He admitted in court that he was lying, that he had zero proof. And then you have all these MAGA lackeys believing all these things and sharing all these posts and all these claims and all these videos of Rudy Giuliani and a bunch of other assholes saying that the election was stolen when there was zero proof. Donald Trump paid $3 million for a recount in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Wisconsin, actually. He paid $3 million supposedly out of pocket. Who knows where the money came from or who paid for it? Because, we know he's a fraudster, right? But anyway, he paid for the recount. Joe Biden ended up getting more votes than originally they counted. So they confirmed Joe Biden by like 200 more votes than originally counted. And that's the same thing that happened with Georgia. They did like 2 or 3 recounts, in Georgia. It happened in every single battleground state. So they don't learn. So now you have Rudy Giuliani. He lost his licenses in New York and D.C. He can't practice. The fact that he was also, his license was taken away in D.C. means that he cannot present a case before the Supreme Court anymore in his life, pretty much. And pretty much in the whole nation, because all these bars from different states, they kind of like feed, one another. They support one another. So if you're, banned, disbarred in New York and D.C., very likely in any other area that you go to try to apply, they're going to know. And probably they're not going to allow you to practice law. But these people are willing to sacrifice their whole life and career and licenses, in favor of the God King and the dear leader. It happened with Jenna Ellis. Jenna Ellis was one of the lawyers that helped him in Georgia to try to overturn the elections by creating all these fake documents and fake electors. So Jenna Ellis lost her license. She actually said on camera, she went to the court, and on camera, she told, the Georgia people, I'm so sorry. If I had known what I know now about Donald Trump, I would have never represented this guy. But she lost her license. She's 37. Well, at least I know she was sanctioned. I'm not sure if it was for a couple of years, but she was fine, and she had to play, she pled guilty. Lawyers, Donald Trump's lawyers pleading guilty. Yeah, it was a hoax. It was a witch hunt. There was no proof. Oh, yeah, Fannie Willis was having an affair with somebody. Oh, the case recently just got, dismissed because the new prosecutor said that it's not in the best interest, supposedly, of, the people of Georgia to fight this case in the courts for the next 5 or 10 years or so. That's what he said. That's not what we know. We know that Donald Trump is on a call, on audio, asking Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia state secretary, asking him to find 11,780 votes that didn't exist. And this guy, Brad Raffensperger, next to Governor Kemp and many other Republicans, they're all on the call. This is, one massive call, and they're recording Donald Trump. This is the thing that I love a lot, that all these Republicans, they know Donald Trump is crooked, and so they keep recording him. He's recorded at the Bedminster in New Jersey saying that he had classified documents, but I'm going to leave that for some other episode. So they're recording Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is insisting, what are the people going to think about you guys? You have to go and find these votes. I just need you to go and find me 11,780 votes. He was losing by 1 vote. Biden was winning by 11,779. So that's why he told him, I need you to go and find me 11,780 votes. And this guy, Brad Raffensperger, Republican, a career Republican with, Governor Kemp, they're on the call. They're telling him, Donald Trump, Mr. President, we did everything we could do. We uncovered every little, single box, whatever. We did all the recounts. It's done. There is no more votes to find. And he's like, oh, but the people are counting on you guys. We know we want MF. You're going to tell me that you sitting, Donald Trump, his ass sitting in Washington, not in Georgia. These people are in Georgia, Republicans, Governor Kemp and Brad Raffensperger, another Republican, state secretary. And they managed the whole process. They had oversight. They were leading the process to make sure that he won. Donald Trump won. They didn't want, they didn't want Biden to win. And Donald Trump is telling them, when they say there are no votes, there's nothing else to uncover here, Donald Trump tells them, oh, what are the people going to think of you guys? What are they supposed to think? That you lost, MF? You lost. What are people supposed to think? That these people are supposed to just all of a sudden produce fake votes? What are people going to think of them if they produce fake votes, for you? So I'm telling you, that's on audio. That's on audio. And then these people still, these lawyers, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Kenneth Chesebro, Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, 5 lawyers, all of them, almost all pled guilty. Sidney Powell pled guilty. Rudy Giuliani pled pretty much guilty to defamation. Rudy Giuliani didn't want to plead guilty in the RICO, conspiring RICO case, Fannie Willis case. He pled guilty for the defamation, which was a separate trial. But when it came to the RICO, conspiracy case, Jenna Ellis pled guilty and started cooperating. Sidney Powell pled guilty, started cooperating. Kenneth Chesebro pled guilty and started cooperating. Lawyers, freaking lawyers. You can claim that somebody, some guy on the street, some random guy who is not, a lawyer, it's arrested by the police and they dupe them, they can dupe him into confessing a crime because he didn't know his rights. Maybe they didn't read the Miranda rights. Maybe they pressured the person. But lawyers pleading guilty, they know the process. They see the evidence and they say, oh my God, I'm fucked. I'd rather just plead, guilty, because if I plead guilty, then I'm going to get the lowest, of course I'm cooperating, so I'm going to get the lowest sentence possible. And then you have all these mega lackeys living in a fantasy bubble and world thinking that, yeah, everything was a lie, everything was a hoax. Why the fuck did they plead guilty then? Come on, man. You have to, I don't know, maybe somebody with a 40, IQ may believe that bullshit. But no average intelligence person is going to believe that shit. So it's been the same thing. And then consider the Stormy Daniels case. Michael Cohen, the same. Donald Trump's fixer, his personal lawyer that would handle a bunch of shit for him, conspire with Donald Trump to create fake companies, fake documents, make fake payments through these companies so that they can reimburse Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen pled guilty, his lawyer. And he went to jail. And of course, then he turned against Trump because once Trump knew what was going on, Trump put it all on him and didn't want to accept and admit his own, fault here. So I'm telling you, it's the same story time and time again. These people get close to Donald Trump, power, I don't know, just they get drunk, with all this power and dreams of being, I don't know, very, very influential and rich. And then they do whatever, Donald Trump wants them to do. So you have to be kind of special, special kind of stupid to do stuff like that. And now we're seeing the same thing. Look at the Abrego Garcia case. That was lie after lie after lie, to the point where now they're facing criminal contempt. They had to recently submit sworn declarations to Judge Boasberg because he said it's been so blatantly, open the way they're lying and giving him like fake information, false information. It's a disaster. You guys remember when the Judge Boasberg ordered for the planes to not leave the country, or if they were in the air, to return immediately. This is what started with all these Venezuelans and Abrego Garcia. And they said, no, we can't do it. And they did it because, the Alien Enemies Act was invoked. And that gives the president the authority to actually, take these people out because they are terrorists. It's a danger to the country. They're terrorists. And therefore, we don't need to follow the regular protocol for due process or whatever. So they said that. And then the judge said, oh, so you invoked the Alien Enemies Act? So I want to know who invoked the Alien Enemies Act, when, and who signed that, invocation. I want to know who signed it, when, and exactly at what time. And then the press the next morning interviews Donald Trump. He's coming out of the White House. I guess he was going to the helicopter or something, about to board it. And they asked him in front of, everybody there. They asked him, hey, Mr. President, Judge Boasberg is questioning who invoked the Alien Enemies Act and who signed it and specifically when. Because he needs to know because of, when the planes took off and when was this declaration invoked and signed. He wants to know if this was before or after. And you know what Donald Trump said? Oh, you're going to have to ask somebody else. I don't know nothing about that. I know nothing about that. Listen, MAGA lackeys, listen to this. Donald Trump said that he knew nothing about the Alien Enemies Act invocation, who signed it or when. This was literally the day before. Only one small problem. The invocation had his signature. Oh my God, we need Pam Bondi here. Pam Bondi, please somebody call Pam Bondi. We have an auto pen. Apparently we have an auto pen violation, a crime here. Somebody apparently used Donald Trump's signature to sign the Alien Enemies Act invocation so that they could send the Venezuelan planes without, obeying the court order, Judge Boasberg's order. So I believe we need a new investigation here to uncover who faked Donald Trump's signature, who used Donald Trump's auto pen, because, they're talking about Biden and the auto pen and who was signing all these pardons and documents, and he didn't know. Biden didn't know anything. He was just gone, was pretty much dead, right? And all of a sudden, Donald Trump is telling the press that he didn't sign the invocation, that he didn't know who signed it, so you're going to have to ask somebody else, but it has his signature. Oh my God, holy shit. If we had another AG, believe me, well, probably wouldn't be now because, there is this tradition that, of course, you never prosecute a sitting president, but you don't have to prosecute him. You have to prosecute whoever used the auto pen to sign that invocation. Because Donald Trump confessed that it wasn't him. And then they scrambled. After Donald Trump said that and got on the chopper and left, and he literally making this huge mistake and committing this blunder, right? Then Caroline Leavitt, I don't know, the White House press team immediately put out a press release. Said, oh, Donald Trump, Mr. President Trump said that he didn't sign the Alien Enemies invocation. But, he does so many things. He was confused. He did sign it. It was him. Well, we know it was him. We were with him. Like some bullshit explanation. Trying to fix it. Trying to clean up the mess after Donald Trump said that he knew nothing about it, that he didn't sign it, that you're going to have to ask somebody else. This is the same administration that had Kristi Noem testifying last week before Congress. And when they asked her, Kristi Noem, Miss Secretary Noem, why are you deporting veterans? And she said, oh, we have never deported any, American veterans. And he's, oh, really? Can you bring me the iPad? And they brought an iPad. And they had this guy in Korea, somewhere else, a U.S. veteran who had taken 2 bullets for, when he was actually serving, and he had, Purple Heart recipient, a bunch of awards. And the guy is on Zoom saying, yeah, you deported me. And I'm a U.S. veteran, and you're saying you didn't deport me? And then he's like, can you join me in thanking, Mr. Veteran here? Can you join me in thanking Mr. Veteran for his service to this country? And she's like, yeah, thank you, Mr. Veteran, for your service. And then once they finish with this guy who was a U.S. veteran that she did deport, now the guy goes, who was this? Who was conducting this questioning? I don't know, one of the senators. Anyway, I believe he was a Democrat. Then he managed that so well. Every time she tried to come up with some bullshit answer, he would cut her off so firmly and say, hey, can you join me in thanking? Look at behind you. We have 3 Marines. You deported his dad. 3 Marines. Can you look back, look at them and say, thank you. You join me in saying thank you for your service? And can you commit to look into the case of his father who was here, 60 years? It was like 3 or 4 cases in a row, back to back. So this was slap after slap after slap. They slapped the shit out of Kristi Noem before Congress. Under oath, they say Kristi Noem may have committed perjury because she said, so it's one of 2 things. If Kristi Noem wasn't lying, then somebody is deporting veterans and she's not aware of it. That may actually be worse than Kristi Noem confessing that she knew. So if she knew, she committed perjury because now she's telling Congress they haven't deported veterans when they have. And if she didn't know, then she's 100% incompetent and somebody's running the show behind the scenes and it's not her. that's what we're seeing here. I'm telling you, this is absolutely a disaster. And then when it comes to the Epstein files, now you have Republicans, and especially MAGA lackeys, because now a lot of Republicans were actually in favor of releasing the files, and this is why most of the Republicans joined and, turned their back on Trump. Trump at the last minute said, yeah, I'm asking everybody to vote in favor of this law because we have nothing to hide. Yeah, now once Adelita Grijalva was sworn in, and she became the vote number 218, the final vote, so that they could approve the discharge petition forcing Mike Johnson to bring it to the floor for a vote. Then, of course, once you see, the dog's balls, he's a male dog, right? So that's a say in Spanish. Sorry, that was probably a bad translation, but that's how we say in Spanish. Once you see the little balls hanging behind the dog, it's not a girl. It's an actual male, puppy or dog, or however it's said. But the reality is that, these people, they campaigned on this. So you're going to have all these MAGA Republicans saying, oh, Biden never published the files. I have, extensively discussed this on my Spanish podcast and on my social media. There's 4 reasons why Biden didn't publish the files. Number 1, Biden never promised that, during the campaign in 2020. Number 2, it wasn't not even like an issue then, because Biden was never even asked by the press. Not a single reporter ever asked Biden if he would release the files. Unlike with Trump, since Trump was campaigning on that when he sat down with Fox News for an interview, Fox News put him on the spot. Would you release the, JFK files? Yeah. And how about, the 9/11 files? Yeah. How about the Epstein files? Yeah, I think I would. And then immediately he pivots and says, well, maybe not so much because, there could be some phony stuff in there, and you don't want to affect lives if there's false information or phony information there. That's what he said. He immediately hesitated, but that's what he did. He campaigned. So Biden didn't campaign on it. It wasn't an issue. It wasn't that, viral, let's say. That's because Biden wasn't talking about it. Reporters weren't talking about it. So maybe the victims were still not organized and as visible at that point. So it wasn't a campaign issue, wasn't like even a national, very popular issue. So that's number 2. Number 3, there was independence between the DOJ and the executive. The fact that you guys have a dictator, an autocrat right now controlling Pam Bundy like a little puppet openly. He's not even trying to hide it. This guy is on social media telling her, you have to go and indict Adam Shifty Schiff, and you have to indict, who else? Letitia James, and you have to indict James Comey. These people made my life hell. They indicted me 5 times. They impeached me twice. We're looking bad. We're losing credibility. We have to indict these people like right now. That's Donald Trump on social media, controlling Pam Bundy like a little puppet. And Pam Bundy's like, yeah, Mr. President, we're going to do it. We're going to get to the bottom of this right away. The American people deserve to know the truth. Blah, blah, blah. Zero independence. Joe Biden never, ever, as much as they want to claim that, this Joe Biden DOJ is totally weaponized. It's a shame that Joe Biden is using the FBI and the DOJ to go after Donald Trump. They can't provide or produce a single email, a single text message, a single audio, a single nothing linking Joe Biden to any order to investigate Donald Trump or any Republican in general. Not a single time. But Donald Trump is out here doing press conferences at the DOJ, is out here on social media asking and ordering Pam Bundy, I need you to indict my political enemies. And that's why, that's why they're failing so badly. That's why the DOJ, as of now, has a 96% losing streak under Pam Bundy. For those of you that don't know this is something Glenn Kirshner, the 30-year, experienced ex-federal prosecutor, says a lot on Tyler Cohen's show. The DOJ used to have a 98% winning record. A 98% winning record. And now under Pam Bundy, it's a 96% losing record. That tells you everything you need to know. It's the same bullshit, type of case they put forward for the big lie claiming that the election was stolen. They are always baseless. They don't need evidence. They don't need proof. They just want to push a narrative And that's why they're failing so badly. But again, so that's 3 reasons right off the bat. Biden never promised this as a campaign thing. It was not a big, popular, viral, pressing issue then for the public. So not even the press was covering it when Biden and Trump were campaigning back in 2020. So Trump wasn't asked in 2020. Biden wasn't asked either. Okay? And then on top of that, there was the independence of the DOJ, which no previous or prior precedent to Donald Trump ever tried to control. Nobody tried to violate that independence. And then number 4, Ghislaine Maxwell was accused and prosecuted by the Trump administration in 2019 to 2020. She finally was convicted between 2020 and 2021, but she immediately filed an appeal. The fact that there was now an ongoing case that was an appeal going through the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court finally, 2 months ago, in October 2025, closed Ghislaine Maxwell's case saying, we reject it. So now it was finally done. But until the Supreme Court addressed that case, it was pretty much alive. And you know, when there is a case, an ongoing case, they're not going to release files. They did so now because now there's a new law forcing them to release everything that is not classified or related to an ongoing case. But back then it was Merrick Garland's decision. So a better question, if you want to ask me, why did Merrick Garland didn't want to publish the files? That's a fair question. But not Biden. Biden never controlled the DOJ the way Donald Trump does. So there you go. Okay, Biden never promised it. Reporters never even asked him because it wasn't a thing. It wasn't viral. It wasn't very popular. It was not a pressing issue around 2020. And then the independence factor from the executive and the DOJ. And then finally, Ghislaine Maxwell's case was open. That's, reason well laid out arguments for you guys. 4 reasons that are very, very powerful. You can't combat that unless you're going to claim that those things didn't happen. Go and find an interview when anyone was asking in 2020 Joe Biden if he was going to release the files. Tell me that Ghislaine Maxwell didn't have ongoing, appeal process. So it's a completely different scenario. But now, reaching the point of 2020, one party decided to make this a campaign issue. Let's attack Biden saying that he's a pedophile. Let's say the Democrats are behind this whole network and ring of pedophiles. And let's, jump on this Jeffrey Epstein wave. And Donald Trump wanted to surf it. And he was all around the country talking about the Epstein files. So at the end of the day, the Republican Party and Donald Trump, they brought up this upon themselves. They were the ones who created the expectation. They set the bar very high, saying that, we're going to be the anti-pedophile, administration. Only to what? I have to give this one to Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes told Steve Bannon recently, a couple of months ago, in an interview, he told him, Donald Trump promised to come and combat the deep state. And what happened? Nick Fuentes' word, not mine, his words, not mine. Nick Fuentes said he became the deep state. So you can't now blame, Democrats saying like, oh, Democrats didn't publish the files. Again, even if I were to concede that point, okay, Biden didn't publish the files. So what? Biden is gone. There's a reason he's not president. You guys said he wasn't good enough that we had to take him out because he was protecting the pedophiles. So let's let him go. Let's concede the point and say, yeah, let's just, for the sake of trying to reason here, let's say that you guys are right. Yeah, Democrats failed. They didn't publish the files. So that means that we abandon the victims now? That Donald Trump could? And he promised to do so, and he hasn't done so, and he's putting up, all these excuses, and he attacked his own party. He called Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all the people who are supporting this measure to release, the bill to release the files. He was calling them stupid people, inefficient people, and manipulated people. And not only that, like a month ago, you guys remember, what did Donald Trump tell Republicans when they're about to finally swear in Adelita Grijalva? He said, if any of you guys votes with Thomas Massie and, these Republicans, you vote in favor of this bill, I'm going to tell the party that you guys are committing a hostile act against Republicans, against our party. So he pretty much said, if you vote in favor of releasing the Epstein files, you're going to be considered a traitor to the Republican Party. And then when finally was unavoidable, the day that they were going to hold the vote, they went and they dragged Lauren Boebert by the hair. They brought her into the Situation Room and they begged her. They literally begged her. They brought Kash Patel, they brought Pam Bondi, and they did this whole, thing trying to convince Lauren Boebert to just, retract, to walk back her promise to support it. And she said, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm going to vote in favor of the victims. And she did. So as much as I don't like Lauren Boebert, and I believe that she has been awful in many ways, at least she did the right thing then and there. So even till the last minute, they were still trying to find only one person who would vote against it, so they didn't have enough votes. Remember, they just needed Adelita Grijalba, the Arizona, the new congressperson from Arizona, that Mike Johnson took 50 or 60 days, to swear in, so they could give more time to Donald Trump and the DOJ to keep, redacting all these files and trying to find Donald Trump's name and Donald Trump's friends and billionaires and powerful people's names. But finally, once it was unavoidable, at that point, Donald Trump had a change of heart. And all of a sudden he said, yeah, I'm authorizing all, Congress members in the House to vote in favor of this measure because we are the party of transparency and we have absolutely nothing to hide. Sorry, I know I was calling you guys stupid and inefficient and being manipulated. And I said you were going to be traitors, committing a hostile act to the party if you voted in favor of it. I was just joking. My bad. My bad. Look at the camera. You've been punked. This was a prank, Look at the camera. Donald Trump, the sad part about this is that Donald Trump, not only he is stupid, he thinks you are stupid. And even sadder than Donald Trump being stupid and thinking that you're stupid is the fact that many of you who believe him, unfortunately, are stupid. Because the facts are out there in the open. You see Donald Trump flip-flopping, promising, yeah, I'm going to release the files. Yeah, I'm going to combat the pedophiles. And now he is calling people stupid. I remember a reporter 2 months ago in the Oval Office asking him about the Epstein files. And immediately, no, it was more. It was probably like around maybe 5 months ago. Remember, maybe 5, 6? Remember when we had these really bad floodings in Texas? There was this, it was around the summer. Yeah, because we had a summer camp. These Christian girls, a summer camp for Christian girls. And we had these really bad floodings where, I don't know how many of them died, like 20, 30 died. It was a lot of them that died, unfortunately, And so somebody asked him about that, not the floodings, but the Epstein files. And he's like, are you guys going to keep asking about the Epstein files? That guy died years ago and he won't go away. They keep talking about this. We have a tragedy in Texas right now. We have a tragedy in Texas and you want to talk about Epstein. We have the greatest economy. We're living in the golden era and you want to talk about Epstein. So look at that. So the economy is more important than the Jeffrey Epstein victims who still haven't, seen justice be served. The tragedy of the girls dying, drowning in Texas was more important than the Epstein victims for some reason, And then, he was the one who told women, if I win, if you vote for me, you should never be concerned because I'm going to be a protector for women. From now on, you're going to see that Donald Trump is going to be the women's savior. All of a sudden, the women's superhero because, that's what I do. I protect women. Of course, until I don't. Until it's related to the Epstein files. Until it's known that I'm all over the Epstein files. And all of a sudden, those victims are not important. It's more important to talk about the golden era. It's more important to talk about some other victims of some other tragedy, but not this tragedy. It's about time we let this tragedy go because, Epstein already died. So who fucking cares? I'm going to tell you who fucking cares, Donald Trump. Survivors. The victims. Maybe some of which you actually saw from a very close distance at some point. At these parties where, according to Ghislaine Maxwell, you were supposedly reading books while people were in all sorts of questionable activities with minors. You were supposedly there just reading books, according to Ghislaine Maxwell. Can you imagine Jeffrey Epstein? Hey, Donald Trump, come here. I have a couple of girlies for you, These are good ones. And Trump, hey, bro, get away from me, Satan. Shut up, Satan. I'm reading the Bible here. I came here to read the Bible so I could help you guys to be saved, to return to Jesus. Of course, yeah. And if you're wondering, this is how fascism works. Great book on Amazon. Highly recommend it. And by the way, since I love reading, I would actually also recommend this great book too by Dr. Stephen Hassan, The Cult of Trump. This is one of the leading experts and when it comes to destructive cults in the world. This guy is one of the Mooney's survivors. He was one of the few ones who was lucky enough to actually escape. And then he became a psychologist. Then he became a doctor. Then he specialized in the study of cults and manipulation, mass manipulation, manipulation in general, and that includes political manipulation. And in that book, he explains a lot and goes into detail, great detail. I actually interviewed him. So if you go on this channel and you check like around 2024, this was before the election, very close to the election, you're going to find the interview with this guy. And he talked a lot about, the models and how Donald Trump is using the same tactics used by leaders, like Jim Jones, David Koresh, and all these destructive cults leaders to manipulate his followers into thinking that he's the only, the sole authority when it comes to information. He's the only one who can fix problems. He's the only one you have to listen to. Nobody else can fix, the country's problems. Everybody else is an enemy. He's chosen by God. There's so many similar things, that once you start reading the book, you're like, holy shit. MAGA is a giant cult. It's literally a giant, cult. But, going back to the topic, this is the party of let's save the kids. We're against drag queen shows because drag queen shows, these people are reading books, but what they're really trying to do is to groom our kids. And we want to protect our kids. All these minors, we don't want them close to drag queens, even though we seldom or rarely see any crime when it comes to child sex, abuse or exploitation or, molestation coming from drag queens. We see it a lot coming from pastors and churches almost on a weekly basis, but there's no bill, nobody cares to draft a bill to go against pastors abusing kids in churches. Yeah, that's another topic, maybe a topic for some other day, but, just putting that out there. But this is the party of, let's combat DEI, let's combat Democrats, let's combat all these drag queens. They are trying to groom our kids. But at the same time, it's the same party of Donald Trump saying, you know what? I believe Matt Gaetz, after he quit Congress, because there was an investigation saying that he had sex with a minor and consumed drugs with a minor and maybe consumed alcohol with a minor. Yeah, I believe that should be our attorney general. What a great idea. Let me give him a round of applause. Matt Gaetz seems to be the best candidate ever. I'm pretty sure there's no one else in the Department of Justice that has been there probably for 20, 30 years, 40 years, with a great career, with an absolute clean record, a person that could do a great job. No, I don't think we could find no one like that. Matt Gaetz, the guy investigated, and that even Congress made its own, conducted its own investigation and found credible evidence that he was supposedly, allegedly, having sex with a minor and drinking with a minor and consuming drugs with a minor. That's my guy. That's the guy. You're just the guy that I need. It was so freaking corrupt that even his own Republican people told him, bro, we know you're crazy. We know you're stupid. We know you're corrupt. We know you're a convicted felon. But that's a bridge too far. Even by Trump's, own standards, they're like, that's a bridge too far, bro. We're not going to do it. And they finally, hanged Matt Gaetz. Can you imagine Matt Gaetz leading the Department of Justice, then overseeing his own investigation or potential investigation? Because as far as I know, Congress finalized this report, but I don't hear Pam Bondi saying anything. To the contrary, I just saw Matt Gaetz, posing as a journalist. He was in the White House in one of the press conferences like 2 weeks ago, asking questions like a reporter. I don't know if it was for a podcast or what, but he was there. And they, apparently they don't care. But I haven't heard. Maybe, tell me in the comments in the chat if you know anything that's going on with that case. Maybe I should do a podcast to follow up on what's going on with Matt Gaetz. But it's funny. The party of let's protect the kids, the minors. I'm all here to protect women. Vote for me. I'm going to protect women. Yeah, by naming an attorney general who is actually right now being investigated for taking advantage of a minor and consuming alcohol and drugs allegedly or so. And of course, when that didn't fly, then he said, well, who's the next best person that I can pick? And then, we have Pam Bondi. Let me show you this quote from Fox News, guys. We're about to wrap it up right now. I'm going to show you this quote, and I think that's going to be it. We're going to call it a day. Look at this. Fox News, Thomas Massey mentioned this on the tweet. I told you that when it came to the tweet, Thomas Massey said, this is Thomas Massey's tweet saying, consider these attachments. This is a tweet. Go and find it. Probably from yesterday. If not the day before yesterday, probably yesterday. Number 1, the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Number 2, statement from Fox Digital. Number 3, existing criminal statute regarding this new Epstein Files Transparency Act. And then he says, look at the bottom, a future DOJ could convict the current AG and others because the Epstein Files Transparency Act is not like a congressional subpoena, which expires at the end of each Congress. This is a Republican calling for the potential indictment of Pam Bondi once there's a new attorney general in office. Holy shit. Holy shit. And now he's quoting Fox. You said he said one of the attachments was like Fox Digital, a statement. If you haven't seen the statement, I covered this yesterday in my podcast. Check this out. This is Fox News, not a right-wing Marxist, bullshit, communist, fake news media outlet. This is Fox News, the network that lied on behalf of Donald Trump, promoting the big lie, and ended up paying $787 million. 787 or 700, I believe it was 787, if not 780, but still over $700 million. Because they defamed, they committed defamation, and they admitted it, and they settled outside of court with Dominion voting systems. Because it was evident that they were just lying, and they knew they were lying, but they kept doing it because of the money. Because they wanted to keep Donald Trump happy. But anyway, look at this. They say the Justice Department redacted the names and identifiers of victims. Fox News Digital has learned that the same redaction standards were applied to politically exposed individuals and government officials. Holy macaroni shit, look at that. The Justice Department redacted the names and the identifiers of victims. Fox News Digital has learned that the same redaction standards were applied to politically exposed individuals and government officials. Oh, Lord. I'm going to say in Spanish because I love saying in Spanish. Ponme la sirena. That's like turn on the siren. Turn on the siren. Holy smokes. So now the question is, who gave the order to apply the same standards that they use for victims to politically exposed individuals and government officials? That doesn't happen out of nowhere in a vacuum. It happens because somebody gave an order. So can somebody call Pam Bondi again? We need to investigate the AutoPen signature for the Alien Enemies Invocation Act. And now we need to investigate who gave the order to openly violate the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Whoever gave that order is fried. That person is fried. That person is done. They literally gave an order to go against the law. So what do you think? Tell me in the comments. What do you think? Let me read one or two comments because now I'm finally going to wrap it up, guys. Before I read one or two comments, let me tell you quickly. Please, if you can, support also my Spanish channel. Primarily this one here. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment. That's going to help me with the algorithm to keep growing this channel that I'm trying to, now get it to a different level. I do have a Spanish podcast, which is my main podcast. It's called, the same as this one. This one is the Aranzamendi podcast. That one is called Aranzamendi Podcast Español. So if you prefer Spanish, of course, please follow me and subscribe on the Spanish channel here on YouTube, Aranzamendi Podcast Español. Aside from that, then we do also help Tyler Cohen. I've been helping Tyler Cohen for the past almost 3 years now. So Brian has this new Spanish channel that we launched around, well, I say new, but fairly new. It was launched almost 3 years ago. And I've been leading that project, helping to do all the translation and dubbing to Spanish, because the Spanish-speaking community, or Hispanics here in the States, they represent the second largest voting bloc after white citizens, right? So it's a very important voting bloc that it's very important that they receive the right information. And so far in Spanish, they have only Univision and Telemundo and maybe CNN Español, CNN Spanish, and they all cater to Trump. They all play the both sides issue. They really don't analyze and break down the news like we see on Brian Tyler Cohen's show with Glenn Kirshner, with Mark Elias, and all the people that he brings on. He's always bringing all these high-profile, Democrats like Gavin Newsom and AOC and Bernie Sanders, Biden, at one point, Kamala Harris, Hochul from New York, J.B. Pritzker, Gretchen Whitmer, Wes Moore, even Mamdani, every single person, James Tallarico, Jasmine Crockett, every single high-profile Democrat that you can think of. Brian has them consistently on his channel in English. So if you don't follow Brian's channel, follow his English channel too. Great channel. So you can learn a lot and stay, updated. But then if you want to help us to, get this information in front of more Hispanics, please go and follow his Spanish channel too. Just follow it, subscribe. Even if you don't speak Spanish, you can always go and help and just subscribe and just like a couple of videos. That's also going to boost, the algorithm. But that's a very important job. It's a very important job that we're doing right now because independent media now, more than ever, when Donald Trump keeps threatening to, remove, take away licenses of the media if they don't fire Jimmy Kimmel. Apparently, he has a new push trying to get Jimmy Kimmel fired. And the same thing. If they report the news in a way that he doesn't like it, he wants people, journalists to be fired. But of course, he's not a dictator. Of course, he's not an autocrat. Of course, he's not trying to be fascist. He's not trying to be act like a communist, even though he blames Democrats for being communists. But all the signs and characteristics of communism and all the abuses that you see, we see right now under Donald Trump. He wants to suppress free speech. He wants to take away birthright citizenship rights. He wants to take away due process rights. He wants to even do away with the Constitution in so many areas. So if you don't see literally dictatorship and all these actions and how that resembles more Russia and North Korea and Venezuela and Cuba at their worst, points, I'm not sure. You may need new glasses or some shit because then you're probably worse than I thought that you were doing, right? So anyway, let me read one or two comments here. Let me see what the MAGA, loyal Donald Trump, low IQ crowd is saying this time. Probably saying, who is this guy? Call ICE on this guy. Send them back to Puerto Rico. Yeah, you're a bold idiot, Marxist, whatever, Anyway, Milagros, thank you. Milagros Cortez says, good night, my friend. Good night, Milagros. Thank you for being here. Because Mark says, yes, sir. And I have here Divine. This lady was last night here too. So thank you. A round of applause. Let me see. Where is it? Round of applause for Divine 7777. Because she's becoming a top fan. She's definitely not for promoting my channel. But what MAGA doesn't understand is that when you join a show, you're helping the algorithm tell more people like you, even if they're MAGA Republicans, you're telling YouTube, please show this channel to more people like me. And that's how it'll be shown to who knows how many more MAGA Republicans, which helps me because now I have more engagement, I have more views, more visits. Then they come here and they join. They team up against me and they start insulting me. The more you chat, that means more engagement. So now YouTube interprets not only a lot of Republicans like this show, the chat is on fire. So that means the topics is great. Let me show this channel to even more people. So a round of applause to the whole MAGA, team. They're tag teaming here in the chat to, debate me and say that I'm stupid or whatever, that I'm a liar, that I know nothing about what I'm talking about, but they're helping me grow my channel. So thank you, MAGA. You're working for me for free. Man, this is an amazing deal. I'm happy about that. But anyway, it's the Democrats that are pedophiles. Hey, Divine 7777. I'm going to give you an honest, serious answer now. If there is any Democrat who has, acted that way, they should be prosecuted. You should be joining me and joining Ro Khanna and joining Thomas Massie and, pushing for transparency so that we can finally prosecute whoever is on those files. I haven't heard a single Democrat saying, hey, you know what? We want to, pass a law to actually help pedophiles. So it's like, oh, we have to release the files. The files incriminate, apparently, at least it looks like they would incriminate Donald Trump, and they're like, oh, you guys are the pedophiles. Nobody's defending pedophiles. We're actually trying to combat them. So, we seem to be on the same page when it comes to condemning, pedophiles. But then you can't condemn pedophiles and defend the one actually siding with pedophiles, blocking the release of the files. So you have to be consistent, please. Aixa Rios says in Spanish, hola, llegué, thank you. Oops, sorry, I'm here. That was funny, thank you. Lucas says, shit channel. Yeah, well, that's what you say, shit comment. Mac Boricua from Puerto Rico, thank you for supporting the channel. Good evening, y'all. Thank you so much. Mariana Penot, hello. Thank you, Mariana. Is this host delusional? I think Trump may be delusional. He was the one who promised to release the files and didn't. So maybe you should be, I don't know, writing an email or maybe calling the White House or something to try to, get your voice heard. Because I think the delusion right now is happening elsewhere. Maybe call Pam Bondi because she didn't understand. She didn't get the memo that she was supposed to release all the files. And apparently she is, still protecting pedophiles. Lucas, thank you, Milagros, helping. He said, Lucas, shipped to you. Virgil Nigel says, Trump wins again. Okay, if you say so, we'll see what happens in time. But so far, these files are absolutely damning for him. The troll 1247 says, they have dirt. Why would they release it? Of course, why would they release it? They would release it only if they were for combating pedophiles. But if they're not for that and they're for protecting pedophiles, then they wouldn't, of course. Divine says again, hey, Biden had the files, nothing. Democrats are so fucking stupid. You know who had the files before Biden? Donald Trump. Do you forget that Donald Trump was the president from 2017 to 2021? So from 2017 and 2021, he had absolutely no problem with the files not being released. All of a sudden, it became an issue when Biden was president. The fuck out of here, Divine 7777. Go and get a life. And by the way, go and try to buy a brain or something so you can start analyzing, shit in a real, honest way, okay? The files have been released, of course. Oh my God, Mr. Tenball, we have Todd Blanche, which is the second person, at the DOJ. He went on Fox News yesterday, Todd Blanche, and he said, we kept at least roughly 100,000. We released around 100,000 when we kept around 100,000. This is all over the media. Do you guys not even read your own news? Do you not even read the press releases from the DOJ saying that they wanted to be careful about redacting files that still apparently needed to be redacted? Bro, this is the problem. This is why sometimes I don't even pay a lot of attention to a lot of these comments, because you have so many people that are like highly uneducated. They're living in this vacuum, in this bubble, and they don't know what the hell is going on, not even in their own orbit. They don't even know about the news that happen daily among Republicans. There's no Republican in Congress or anywhere, or even the media, denying that they held files, that they didn't publish the whole files. Come on. The Green Reefer says here, that entire administration needs to be impeached, removed, and imprisoned. Man, this is the best comment ever so far. The best comment ever. Thank you so much, The Green Reefer. I am 100% in agreement with your comment here. Thorn6809 says, MAGA worshipping the corrupt pedo. How many of you MAGA lowlifes are actually U.S. citizens? That's a good question. Good question. Lucas says, don't like Trump or America? Get the fuck out. Lucas, do you even own your home? Probably you're still paying a mortgage, if you have a mortgage at all. So that means that you barely own a tiny particle of land here in the United States. So maybe you can kick somebody out of your own house if you own a house. But if you don't, then don't be asking people to leave when you don't own the country. So unfortunately, that's a stupid argument. Tell me you're salty without telling me you're salty. Maga Boricua, Mac Boricua, sorry, Mac. Don't stop talking to me because I call you Maga Boricua. Mac Boricua. I so hate this waste of human being. Hey, I can't blame you, bro. Like, Donald Trump is probably the worst human being we've seen in a very, very, very long time. And the good news is the country's finally waking up to that. Even Republicans are waking up to that fact. That's why his approval ratings are in the tank, in the toilet, in the tank right now, going down the drain. And that's why we're seeing massive, massive victories for Democrats. We saw it on November 4, the November 4 elections. We saw it on Miami-Dade just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, where a Democrat finally, after 30 years of a stronghold in Miami-Dade, a red city, ruby red city in a ruby red state, and Aileen Higgins, a Democrat, they not only went blue, they went woke. They chose a woman, and this woman won by 19 points. For the MAGA lackeys in the chat right now, Donald Trump won in 2024 Miami-Dade by 12 points. A woman, Aileen Higgins, won by 19 points. Let's give her a round of applause. Let's give her a round of applause. Change is coming. Just wait for it. You can throw all the tantrums you want, but change is coming. People are tired of this autocrat, dictator administration's bullshit and all the lies, and especially protecting, pedophiles and not fixing the economy at all. Jojo Vic says Democrats never used it. They never released a single sentence. They hid it. Okay, yeah, let's prosecute them too. But Donald Trump has to go with them. Let's get rid of all of them and start all over. I agree. Let's do it. Are you down? Should we get rid of Donald Trump too? Nobody is defending anyone on the Democrat or progressive side that may have committed a crime. So, is that the best you got, man? Oh, the other guy did it too. Man, that's bad. Can you imagine? They come in, somebody comes in, they accuse you of like raping a little girl, and you're like, yeah, but that other guy, my neighbor, he did it too. You have to be such a loser, man. Oh my God. Guys, I'm going to tell you something. If you want to come to, my podcast, I love it. Share your ideas or whatever, but don't bring me bullshit, kids level arguments here. I'm always well prepared. I have a MAGA brother who is like more MAGA than all of you guys combined, and I have heard every single bullshit argument you can think of, and I have the best answers for all of them to squash them and to literally humiliate you in public so that you don't go around sharing the same bullshit all over social media. So at the end of the day, I'm helping you. I believe God sent me to save you from MAGA, to save you from the stupidity of MAGA, from being blind, to give you back, restore your vision, help you maybe, get some spark going inside your brain so that, you kind of like tilt and figure out like, hey, something is not adding up. Yeah, this guy may have a point here. Shit, how can I combat this guy? How can I debate him? I can't. He always has a good answer, a good reply, a good rebuttal. Shit, I hate him. I love this so much. I should have been doing this before, earlier in my life, because I'm so good at this shit. Sorry, I'm not trying to brag, but the truth is the truth, okay? You guys are not on my level, so please go and read a book or something before you come again with this bullshit for the next show, okay? This guy talking is a total loser. She's so salty. She is so salty. Can you imagine spending a whole... I've been here for an hour and 18 minutes, and she's still here listening to a loser. Who does that? If I believe someone is a loser, that's the last place I'm going to spend and waste an hour of my life. Just listening to a guy and saying, he's a loser, he's a loser, he's a Democrat, he's an idiot, he's a Marxist, he's a... Oh, Lord, this is too good. This is just too good, man. This is gold, literally gold. But I have to go, guys. Hey, thank you so much. Please remember, like and subscribe. Share this video if you like the content, if you made it this far. I'm going to be trying to do as much as I can content daily for you guys, breaking down the news and taking down weak-ass MAGA lackeys here in the chat. So it's always going to be fun once we reach the end of the podcast, so that we can just show them that they're like so far and disconnected from reality, and at the same time so like weak when it comes to debating and all of that. But thank you so much for your time. I'll see you guys on the next episode, and yeah, just stay connected, okay? Thank you so much, and bye-bye.